When the dusk turns full dark, it comes. Welcome back to some more Into the Lore of Dead by Daylight. In this episode, we will be looking at Roots of Dread with the survivor, Haddie, and its killer, the Dredge, along with their map, Garden of Joy, Associated Realm, the Withered Isle. On a privately owned island in the Atlantic, the garden was home to a bustling commune of optimists set on building a better world. Funded by a band of anonymous philanthropists and managed by a charismatic leader, they attempted to rid themselves of dark emotions for fear of summoning the ancient god of shadows. Dark thoughts corrupted this idyllic community. A mansion sits twisted by darkness and further perverted by the entity's influence, contorting and reconfiguring itself in maddening serpentine formations, at once familiar and foreign to look upon its known fear. Haddie, brave and determined podcaster. Haddie spent her youth in a household brimming with love. Her mother, Professor Bassin Ka, moved across the world to teach agriculture science at a university in Trois-Rivières, Quebec. Her father, Rajan Singh, found remarkable success with a catering business in the small Quebecese town. Her house constantly swirled with the wonderful aromas of cumin, chilies, masala, cardamom, and fresh steaming naan pulled from a tandoor oven. Her earliest memories were filled with stories of India, and on her 10th birthday, her parents promised to visit Punjab just after the New Year. During the holiday season, her parents went to a party with their closest friends, Maurice and Francisco Rose. When Haddie called her parents to say she felt sick, they left in a hurry, driving through the winding, snow-swept roads of rural Quebec. Rajan lost control of the car, skidding into the icy, gnarled forest. It would be 2 days before their bodies were found trapped in the vehicle. As Haddie's fever broke, the police arrived at her doorstep, telling her that they had not suffered. But Haddie was old enough to know the police were just being kind. The next morning, she woke up with white hair and a question that would haunt her for the rest of her life. The Rose took Haddie in, doing their best to fill the hole left by her parents. Despite the enormous loss, Haddie was again surrounded with love, the love her adopted parents had for their son, Jordan, and the love the three had for her. But the trauma of losing her parents seemed to unlock something within her. She began to see things nobody else could see. Horrible, unnatural, unexplainable things. Apparitions tormented her in class, at home, in bed. Her unexpected screams earned her the nickname Helly Haddie, only adding to her alienation anguish. Once a cheerful and social child, Haddie walled herself off to the world. With time, Haddie realized her uncanny abilities only triggered in certain areas. Dark areas. It was as though they were places in the world where another dimension somehow bled into our own. Jordan called these intersecting areas overlaps. They seemed to give Haddie insight into a dark, shadowy world straight out of a cosmic horror story. When Haddie graduated from high school, She felt an unexplainable tug to discover who her parents were. To raise money for a trip to India, her brother Jordan suggested that they use her ability to explore and document all the haunted places in Quebec, starting with a haunted asylum. At the Doria Institute, Haddie could see and hear residual memories, patients, doctor, and so much more. While recording her impressions at the Institute, she offhandedly called the encroaching dimension the Ravage, since it not only assaulted her with memories from all times and places, but also gave the sense of feeding off psychic energy. The Ravage, she sensed, was a living mosaic of human suffering that was slowly corrupting and devouring the world. She concluded that they needed to investigate more to see if there was anything to her hypothesis. Jordan presented the footage and recording to their uncle Stefan, who helped them turn what they had documented into a web series. Within days of uploading the first episode, Ravages of the Abyss was a viral hit. True crime fans, ghost chasers, and skeptics flooded the comments with their own theories of what she was experiencing. Stefan handled the production, and before long, he presented Haddie with her first check as a professional podcaster. Now with a working budget, Haddie was able to investigate the most haunted places in the world, seeking answers about the Ravage. Her investigation led her to a secluded island where once an entire town had mysteriously disappeared, leaving dozens of empty homes. She never felt such a strong influence of the Ravage as she did here. It pulsed with suffering and cruelty and repressed darkness. Haddie absorbed the emotions of the ghost town and closed her eyes, calming herself and silencing her mind. She began to hear guttural screams and cries and whimpers. When she opened her eyes once again, she could see the scintillating orange residue memories of people tearing each other apart in the mud and rain. Then everything disappeared as a much older version of her stepbrother beckoned her from one of the homes. She chased after him only to stop suddenly with the realization that the Ravage was toying with her emotions, playing tricks on her, making her see things that couldn't possibly be real. The encounter nearly put Haddie off the project entirely, but she was now the linchpin for a company that fed her family. Her uncle Stefan continued to line up sites to visit, and after a personal trip backpacking across India, Haddie carried on subjecting herself to the horrors of the Ravage. Then, while investigating a haunted World War II bunker in the Alps, Haddie heard someone faintly crying out for help in Punjabi. Snow flurried in the bunker as a tunnel suddenly opened to a snow-covered forest. A horn blared in the distance and faded away. She saw the glow of red lights through a wall of snow and felt her heart skip a beat. As she rushed to a crumbled blue car pinned between two massive pine trees, through the shattered windshield, she saw the bodies of her parents stuck in pools of frozen blood. Haddie narrowed her gaze and saw tiny plumes of vapor floating from their trembling blue lips. With a profound sense of urgency, she rushed around the wreck, trying her best to push, pull, and kick her way in, all to no avail. As she cried out to them that she was sorry for being sick, that the accident was all her fault, their eyes snapped open, and in unison, they answered the question that anchored her life to their death. Yes, Betty, we suffered. With a terrible cry, Haddie fell back into the snow as ice tendrils wrapped around her and pulled her down into a world of endless darkness. Plagued by a chilling vision of the inexplicable, Haddie Ka is driven to brave the perils of the unknown, possessing the ability to see realms beyond our own. She knows more about the encroaching darkness than most. Perhaps that's why she's not afraid to stand face to face with danger with flashlight in hand. Haddie Ka is a brave and determined podcaster with the ability to see and feel places of great suffering she calls overlaps. Her personal perks, inner focus, residual manifest, and overzealous allow her to track survivors and killers after an attack, use flashlight more efficiently, and repair generators more efficiently. Inner focus. You have honed your ability to see through the haze of the ravage. Grants the ability to see the scratch marks of other survivors. Whenever another survivor within 32 meters of your location loses a health state by any means, the auras of the killer is revealed to you for 5 seconds. The death, the trauma, the fear, it all leads here. The overlap. Overzealous. Fighting back against the ravage motivates and inspires you. After cleansing or blessing a totem, Overzealous activates. Dual Totem increase repair speed by 10%. Hex Totems increase your repair speed by 20%. Overzealous deactivates after losing a health state by any means. The ravage senses us. We need to work fast. Residual Manifest. A lifetime of chasing the darkness has taught you that the best disinfectant is light. After a successful killer blind, the killer suffers from the blindness status effect for 30 seconds. Residual Manifest grants the ability to rummage through an open chest once per trial and guarantees a basic flashlight. I'll never see what Haddie sees. So long as I'm with her, I know I'm safe. Haddie Ka is an interesting survivor in this realm of cat and mouse, because this version of Haddie Ka is very different than the ones that you read about in the tomes, but we're so familiar with this version that this is our Haddie Ka. But, along with Haddie, something evil, something sinister, something malignant has come to this realm. Are we ready to face against this monster? Are we ready to face against the darkness? The Dredge. The fold was founded on a private American island in the 1960s by a group of anonymous philanthropists. Their goal was to establish a peaceful society free of dark thoughts and emotions, attracting the dismayed, disenchanted, and delusioned from all over the country. This peace-loving community thrived over the years, and members freely followed the dictates of its charismatic leader, Otto Stamper, who taught his followers the secret of maintaining happiness through joy talk, meditation, and endless recitings of good-thinking mantras. But not all was bliss within the fold, and Otto swiftly banished anyone who confessed to having dark thoughts or speaking dark words. Those he appointed as guardians of the fold were quick to root out malcontents, banishing anyone who thought or spoke against the almost perfect community he had established. Life was more or less a utopian dream on the island, until, that is, the darkness began to slowly leak through the cracks of their spiritual dam, and members began to mysteriously disappear. It wasn't long before fear closed his secretive jaws on the island and refused to let go. The once happy community now gathered in a few homes, chanting all the good-thinking mantras in a desperate attempt to rid their lives of this formless creature that seemed to stalk them in the shadows and consume them in their sleep. Otto tried to quell his followers, telling them that there were malcontents among their ranks and that they alone had summoned the Drani to their garden of joy. As the foe belated fear, Otto evoked desperate measures. Automarians were restricted to their homes to prevent the spread of rumors and dark talk, while sleep was forbidden to prevent anyone from releasing dark dreams into the world. Freedom and sleep will return just as soon as the Drani was no longer upon them. But when Automarians continued to disappear, Otto assembled his followers near the beach, where he placed a screaming woman on a wooden stage. There, in the rain, Otto explained to his drenched, alienated, and sleep-deprived congregation that the woman was a journalist here to destroy everything they had created. As the guardians held the trembling woman, she screamed that Otto wasn't the savior he claimed to be. He belonged to an ancient cult, an exclusive club of billionaires that took pleasure in corrupting and sacrificing people, towns, even countries, to an elder god. The journalist told them Otto hadn't banished anyone. He had tortured and sacrificed them, and that they will all be next. Without hesitation, Otto slit her throat before she could continue to spread lies. As she collapsed to her knees with her hands clasped around her neck, he told his confused and terrified herd that she was working with others within their ranks, and that they needed to find the imposters before the Drani came for them all. Otto's words shot over the congregation and reached into the murky recesses of their hearts and dredged up dark and fearful things. Years of suppressed emotions began to bubble up as a thick fog pushed through restless legs and feet. Whispers began, and the whispers became panic mantras, and the mantras became screams and curses as each member accused the next of mal-thinking and mal-speaking. Over the howling wind and pounding rain, the screams and curses grew louder and louder as everyone desperately tried to contain the darkness within. But the harder they tried, the quicker they allied, and within moments the dam burst to release a torrent of hell. Otto watched his once blissful and joyful herd suddenly erupt into violence unlike anything he had ever seen before. The foe belied accusations and tore each other to bits and pieces with hands and teeth, and never once did they look up to see their kind and charismatic shepherd smiling down upon them with eyes that were cold, bleak, and without pity. When it was all over, Otto felt the creaking wooden stage shake as a murder of crows circled above. Suddenly, the ground rose, then sank into a thick, oozing black mud like molasses. Moments later, a formless mass squeezed out of the muck and rode like a rearing horse to feed upon the writhing mass of butchered humanity. It was everywhere and nowhere at once as it slowly picked its way through the carnage, absorbing the darkness, savoring the misery, trailing terrible noises, shrieks, cries, whimpers, pops, cracks, feasting sounds, death sounds, dark sounds. Otto watched the creature as it slowly began to manifest into the very thing he had imagined, the very thing he had made them all imagine. It turned slowly to look at Otto for a long silent moment. Then the Drani trudged away through the thick black sludge, disappearing into the shadows from which it had come. A twisted abomination too disturbing to bear, the dredge malevolence is palpable. All light slowly drains its presence, surrounding survivors in darkness. Using lockers as map-wide gateways, it can emerge at any moment, seemingly everywhere at once. The dredge is a manifestation of the dark thoughts of a once vibrant community, able to teleport between lockers and summon an overwhelming darkness. Its personal perks, Dissolution, Darkness Revealed, and Septic Touch, allow it to destroy pallets, spot survivors near lockers, and afflict healing survivors with blindness and exhausted. Darkness Revealed. In your presence, places once thought to be safe are perhaps the most dangerous. Searching a locker has the following effect. The auras of survivors within 8 meters of any locker are revealed to you for 8 seconds. Darkness Revealed has a cooldown of 30 seconds.
Stay in the light, my children. In darkness, your fear will expose you.
Dissolution. Everything turns to dust. It is as inescapable as the coming of the night. After 3 seconds of injuring a survivor, by any means, Dissolution activates for 20 seconds. Instantly breaks the next pallet that survivors performs a vast fall across while inside your terror radius.
The garden shall be a place of perfect joy. Through joy, nothing will stand in our way.
Septic touch. The land of the shadow subsumes all. Healing only delays the inevitable. Whenever a survivor performs a healing action while they are inside your terror radius, that survivor suffers from the blindness and exhausted status effect. These effects linger for 10 seconds after the healing action is interrupted by any means.
Do not admit to fear or pain or doubt. These are the seeds from which darkness grows.
The dredge is an otherworldly creature. No one knows its true purpose, or why it was summoned here in the way as it was. But we can know one thing for sure. Its darkness manifested.